Next step is to remove the rest of the sound system. We have the microphone that we had clipped up in here when the cover was on, and we can see that that leads down underneath this piece here. This black plastic here is the speaker assembly. That's held on by one screw down on the far side, so we'll take that out. Not a captive screw, it's easy to drop that one down inside the circuitry here, so just be careful. Once you get that screw loose, this whole assembly will raise up. It's just kind of pressed in there, and you'll see that underneath it there's one set of cables, and that connects the actual speaker wire. Those are the speaker wires, so we'll carefully pop that off, and you can see the screw that I was talking about that holds the other end in there. So we'll tape that to the assembly so that it doesn't get lost. It's pretty small. Set that aside, and that lets us get underneath here to where the microphone cable was plugged in. It was pinched underneath that other piece. That's part of the design, but now that that's off, we can disassemble that, take that, set it to the side. And in that same area underneath there, we see this square board. It looks a lot like the wireless card that we saw earlier in the disassembly. It's got a couple of black wires leading to it, one that leads over to the edge here, and one that leads over here to the motherboard. That's actually the modem for old-fashioned dial-up internet. So we want to remove that now. The cabling for it rides in slots here underneath this rainbow-colored ribbon cable. This one's already been pulled loose a little bit. You may have to pull this out from underneath its clips and possibly even disconnect it to be able to get this cable out from underneath where it might be laying on your machine. Once you have that loose, this whole assembly, if you take a screwdriver into the modem side and just lightly pop it up, that whole thing just pulls right out. It's just sitting in there in a couple of slots in the plastic. So that gets us one side of the cable loose. We'll take and loosen the other side of the cable. Sometimes these are in there pretty tight. There we go. And then that usually rides down and pinches in between this copper heatsink heat plate here and this orange computer component. So we just pull gently and it'll pull out from in that slot, and now we can have both of our cables free. The rest of the card is held by two Phillips screws, so we'll remove those. Not captive screws, so you want to keep track of those. And we'll tape them right to the top of this card. The card is actually plugged into another little socket like all of these other cables have been, so it doesn't come loose immediately when you take those screws out, but if you wiggle it a little bit, you'll see it plugs right down into that one, and now you've got the entire modem here. Take care of those screws before I forget. Just tape them right to the thing, set that off to the side.